I don't know if I reviewed this before, but let's check. Let's talk about it. Let's check it out.
Say here that is a very absurd conclusion given Christian nationalism. Shit like blasphemy. So like blasphemy as defined by the Bible is the worst sin that anyone can commit. Does that mean that people should go to jail for life for blasphemy? Well, I don't know, because we know that people should go to jail for life for, and if blasphemy is worse than, and we're operating under a system in a society with a government that legislates on the basis of the Bible and these foundational beliefs as prescribed by Christianity, are we going to start sending people to jail for blasphemy too?
Well, that's kind of silly, because that assumes you're supposed to be consistent and consistently punish based on some like level, but that's actually doesn't have to be the case at all. So I wonder what Nick's gonna. How old is Nick Fuentes? You know, I just want to know. How old is he?
I don't see how you'd be able to respond to that. I don't. And then, like, a couple other things that we could say here. The Bible promotes very harmful, bad beliefs. I mean, 1 Samuel 15:3, God tells Saul and his men to genocide the Amalekite men, women, and girls. I bet if I was to engage in a conversation with this guy specifically about 1 Samuel 15:3, he'll end up saying that sometimes genocide's okay. Leviticus 25 verses 44 through 46. God tells the Israelites that they can own the non-Israelites as human property for life. I bet if I was to have a conversation with this guy about that topic, he'd end up saying that no, slavery hasn't always been wrong.
Well, genocide is like, I'm not sure if the definition of genocide includes justified or unjustified. You know, like, is unjustified, which means that not all is. I don't know if this distinction has been determined within the term genocide, because based on Dean Withers, his own broken, arbitrary moral system, he would have to agree that hunting down and stopping little mean mustache men with markings on their arm was a type of deliberate genocide of a people, a specific people. Was that wrong?
Alongside other things, right? So we could talk about how Christianity is false. We could talk about how it doesn't allow us to effectively legislate. We could talk about the absurdities that are already present in the Bible. But one last point that I'd like to bring up is if you're going to make an argument on the basis of the efficacy and the outcomes in which it would generate in society, which seemingly you started to there, well, what if we find another religion that...
No, not all is... Not all is...
generates better outcomes than the one that you hold to. Okay, so if the reason that you want a Christian nation is because it will promote human well-being and happiness, people are going to be having more kids and following these commandments, they'll be doing good, no degeneracy, none of that shit. Well, what if I
all is not all is... Do you understand?
Told you that the LDS church had even better outcomes than
the genocide. That's hilarious. That's great. Who did that? J.S. Urban. Did you just invent that? Did J.S. Urban just invent that? That is just gorgeous. Nicely done. Can I run with that, please? To genocide. That's great. That's great. I'm jealous.
in the Catholic Church? Would you all of a sudden be in support of an LDS-led state?
Jealous. I quit. I'm quitting. I'm ending the stream.
Probably not. Okay, right? So that's another contradiction on its own. So feel free to kind of pick and choose there, respond to the point that you want to take it away.
Yeah, so you said about birth rates or immigration.
I would go all in and trying to impersonate this guy if his following wasn't a bunch of lunatics who will do just about anything. Because it would be fun. It would be fun impersonating him.
Well, here's the problem. Okay, one, the people that have liberalism are themselves. Okay,
is unlawful. It's still. I know, dude. What are you, retarded? I know that. Dalmatians are also dogs, but not all dogs are Dalmatians. K-Ram. I don't understand what you're fighting. Who are you fighting right now? Do you need to be embarrassed? What's going on with you?
The thing goes screw us, pap pap, cocac, a skiddick, pap pap, in a poo poo powder, boom, sky, do do, cuckoo, moon, poom, poom, you done now.
Well, Dustin, that actually sounds most like rap. At least you win that award.
So the people that invented liberalism, that live in liberal societies, literally and figuratively are themselves. They're committing suicide. They're dying.
Well, the guy
because of
that you
despair.
worship
Okay, are you
literally
going to
killed
interrupt me
himself.
like 30 seconds into my rebuttal? That's crazy. No confidence in liberalism. They
you're
commit
right. I'm
suicide. They die from desert despair. They're addicted to drugs. All
That was good rhetoric from Nick.
kinds of things. They're all dying over there. Okay, we're dying in America. We're dying in Europe. And by the way, these people come from non-liberal or illiberal societies, and then their birth rate goes down. So even if you wanted to argue, oh, well, like, we could salvage liberalism with an endless supply of immigration from illiberal societies that have kids, when they get here, their birth rate goes down. And these are not liberal people. They come from illiberal places. Like
That's one of the wild things about liberalism is that they're obviously, for policy reasons, they pander to immigrants, but they have no duty to procreate. They have no duty to their country to produce families. They have no duty to do anything. So when we bring up the question of like reproduction problems for population, they just say import them. Okay, well, do they have an obligation to provide us with people then? Do they have an obligation to reproduce? The answer is no. And yet the liberal relies on the other countries that are traditional, that from their traditional background informs them on reproduction as some sort of good in the world. And then they basically steal. Same thing with the gays. Liberals and gays are very similar. Gays have this sense of right to having children, even though they can't have children. And so what do? They move over the obligation to the person providing the child.
Yo, bro, I love this shit, so never quit. I'm sorry, you was a bit with a cough song.
Thank you, Kunk. That was actually nice, too. Nice job. Good job.
Who that best, this blind lesbian?
Who is this blonde lesbian?
like China or Africa or Latin America. They come here, they assimilate, and within a few generations, the birth rate goes down because liberalism is suicidal. With regard to the question,
Similar to homosexuality. Endless liberalism leads, the extrapolation of liberalism leads to death of the population, let alone its beauty, its standards for ethics, its standards for decency, its theology. It's all broken. All liberalism does is it isolates the individual, and they choose their own personal path with no loyalty to a larger fabric of society. And so all the threads go in different directions on the blanket, and then it unravels. And then you get into these crisis modes where you're like, well, we need people. And then they're like, I'm not doing it. Having a child right now, that is so selfish, bringing a child into this. And you're like, so you still think that people should migrate to the U.S. because we need people, right? Well, those people were made by humans.
about efficacy and outcomes, I'm not arguing that we should have the religion with the best efficacy. I said liberalism has failed, and we know it's failed because it's committed.
That's not what's happening. You're confusing cause and effects. I don't know if you're talking to me, Dirk, but you got to be more specific when you say things then.
Suicide. So clearly liberalism as a system is not working. And that's why, it's such a radical notion. People think that we would have blasphemy laws or religious laws. They think it's a radical notion. It's unthinkable. The current system must be replaced. It's an imperative. It's not a question of, whether or how or anything like that. It simply must be because
Meanie Mustache Man? No, he had some things right, Little Iggy. He had some things right. You can't say he had it all right. Okay? You gotta be rigorous, okay? You gotta be objective, Little Iggy. Rigorous. You gotta isolate what descriptive claims were true and he got right, and you have to look at the practical what he had right, and then you have to admit where it goes bad. Ultimately, all of these things go bad when they veer away from Christianity.
Because it will cease to exist. And so that's really the crux of the argument. Why it should be Catholicism, it's because Catholicism is true. But the point I'm trying to make is for people that say it's so radical that we would go backwards. I would say we went backwards with liberalism.
Dirk brings clarity. No, you brought confusion because you said something that nobody's clear on what you're saying.
As evidenced by the fact that it's not even reproducing itself. And that's a huge...
I'm fine with you being a Dirk, but once you're being a Dirkhead, come on, dude.
Huge problem. With regard to the stuff about the Old Testament, I mean, look, the Catholic Church, Christians today are not in favor of genocide or slavery. If you want to get into that, this is just like new atheism 101. Are you an atheist? Are you an atheist or something?
I'm an agnostic, but I wouldn't particularly use these verses in the Bible to say that your religion is false. I use these verses in the Bible to say that your religion is absurd.
Absurd? How is it absurd? Even if you granted the false claim that it's pro-slavery, what if it was? Dean, what would be wrong with it? That doesn't make it logically absurd, by the way. This is the problem with atheism. They use the term absurd, and keep in mind, I have done it myself where I use absurd colloquially or for an effect. But if you're actually talking about a worldview, if you say it's absurd, you actually have to say it's logically absurd, not that you just don't like it. It's not logically absurd.
I know, wait, but I just wanted to ask you that, and then let me finish the last point. So it's very funny when atheists who have no objective source of morality, it's like, their morality is something like, hey man, just leave everybody alone. What if I disagree? What if my morality says, well, I want to kill everybody or something? What if the majority of people said our morality says, well, we want to harm and we want to do this and that? An atheist has no God that says, well, so-and-so has the authority to say this is correct. That's a problem. And yet they have a problem with blasphemy laws. It is good to have a God that is a source of authority, that gives us our morality, that is unquestioned.
However, Nick, if Muslims worship the same God as you, they're not violating anything in the Christian ethics system or decency laws for them to go out disruptively in public, take over a space, and pray to a false god. You would do nothing about that, Nick. You couldn't do anything about it. If they just totally dominated you in population and reproduction, and they took over all of the public spaces, the anti-liberalism view that says Christianity should be able to inform its decency and public decency and behaviors through a Christian ethical system, if we have the power to. That's consistent with the secular system too. So if that's the case, let's grant Christians, people who call themselves Christians, have the power. The problem with Nick's view is that he's arguing against public indecency against the secularist. But if you swap Dean with a Muslim, and Muslims started listing things they wanted to do in public, in regards to worship and other things like this, Nick couldn't actually stop them from doing it because they're worshiping the same God, just in public. They're just prostrating with Muslim chants, at the mall.
With regard to the Old Testament, if you want to get...
Kunk says, if Muslims win, then God wins. Right.
Get into the debate about what's bad, I would start with the question of how do you know what's bad? You claim that certain things are bad. You don't know where good and bad comes from. And how do we know the good and bad are even real? If we're all material, if we're only atoms and we don't have souls, why does it matter what happens to any of us? I mean, what is justice? Is there such a thing as the conceptual? If there is only matter, where is the conceptual?
This is an absolute destruction of Dean's view.
Can we see it? Can we feel it? Is it located somewhere?
Do you want to respond to those points?
So, and I'm making a point here. I'll wrap it up quickly. So for an atheist to point to the Old Testament and say, well, how could a God who does these things be so...
By the way, what does Kanye think about the Muslims? I sure want to hear from him in the chat. Because he's awful friendly with Sneeko.
So immoral. I would say to the godless, what is moral and who are we if we're not just...
Nick seems too smart to be ours. Well, he seems too, you know, I mean, it's about time he would be married with children at this point.
Stardust being rearranged. I mean, slavery, these things, these are conceptual. It can only exist with a real philosophical...
That's a good argument.
Viewpoint, not with this kind of lame, like, Sky Daddy isn't real sort of stuff. So, you know, there's just a lot of assumptions there that kind of need to be interrogated.
Yeah, I would stick to the justice part. I mean, Nick laid out a whole lot there. Maybe just went over the line of what would be sort of a filibuster, even though everything he said was true in regards to atheism lacking any sort of philosophical grounding for justice or person being violated. Who's the person? If we're all machines, if we're all material machines, who is being violated? Now, similarly, it's interesting that Nick understands this problem of the atheist not having a who that can be violated under their system. It's not an abstract, you need a who-ness. You need something called a who. You need a dean. You need a person, not a machine, not a general mechanism called human. Now, what's interesting about this is that the same argument used against the materialist or the atheist physicalist who refers to humans as these biological machines, there's no who or spirit, right? There's no personhood. What's interesting is that when the Muslims, quote, worship the same God as you, if you claim that, when you ask who are they worshiping, it's interesting that the same who that Nick is asking Dean to demand, we're asking the Roman Catholic view to present that for the who of the Muslim God, and it doesn't exist.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what needs to be interrogated is the fact that you asked me.
Trump Whoppers, I heard you missed me. I did respond to you in another chat, but I didn't see your response. I don't know if you responded to me, Trump.
Well, what do I do if a group of people likes to kill others? What if God said that?
This sounds nihilist. No, KRAM, this is an internal critique. Of course it sounds nihilist. We're steel manning the consequences of a strict materialist, strict physicalist worldview.
Then we would
I think
have
that's
to
a
do
question that we need to ask.
Then we would have to do it.
Wait, really? If God told you to kill a baby, would you do it?
Well, God would never do that because God is good and those things are evil.
Okay, so raping and killing is evil. So when he commanded people to kill the Amalekite in 1 Samuel 15:3, that was evil?
God is telling us to and kill babies right now?
So specifically about in 1 Samuel 15:3, he did command Saul and his men to kill the Amalekite babies.
Babies? He told them to rape babies?
No, to kill babies.
Well, yeah, then if I were one of those guys, I would have done it, but not rape them.
Okay, so if God commanded you to kill a baby today, would you do it?
Yes.
Okay, so why would you kill a baby, but...
What do you mean? How's that different from your world?
Make the history work for my ministry.
No, I don't know if that's a take I would take, but he just bit the bullet anyway. It doesn't matter he bit the bullet, because then, you know, a Christian might come back and say, well, let's discuss what he just said. But he could bite the bullet in this with that, because Dean can't say anything. You know, if Kamala Harris instructs you all, you young ladies, to terminate your babies just through a different method, would you do it? Like, if you thought it was the right thing to do, would you do it? Yeah, of course they would.
But you wouldn't.
It's just amazing. Someone who is an abortion advocate, like Dean Smithers, or whatever his name is trying to clutch his pearls about a biblical instance where a nation is judged as a nation, not as individuals. This is where creeping individualism, which is pertinent to this debate, creeping individualism does this presentist view back in time, right? Everything's through the lens of individual liberty as opposed to nations judged.
Baby.
Because that would be cruel or something.
Wait, is the baby not cruel?
Not if you're aborting it, apparently, Dean.
In the Old Testament, it worked differently.
No, I'm
That's
talking
a
about,
fallen
you said,
world.
you particularly said that you would kill a baby today if God asked you, but you
If God
wouldn't
told
rape
us,
a a baby if God asked you. So how
Not
come you
rape.
kill a baby?
See, this whole thing, I would probably push back and be like, first of all, I wouldn't assume it was God talking to me to begin with, even if he's saying do a good thing, honestly. Like, if I heard sort of like whispers, I wouldn't assume that I'm Sam.
Sneak up with his sneaky little toes, tipping through the Muslim land. I'm coming in with the truth, my friends. I'm got to all the Muslim friends. I am, I am Allah.
Okay, yay. Yeah, even if I thought, had this inclination that I thought God was talking to me directly with like a voice, I would first be totally hesitant, even if they were saying if I was hearing good things.
Today, but not a baby.
Because the context of the Old Testament is that it's a fallen world. And that's the context you're talking about. You said that in the Old Testament,
Dude, we're not
God
talking
said
about dude, please answer my question.
We
This
literally
is a damning
are.
non-answer.
Well, if
You
we're not
told me
talking about,
today-
wait. If we're not talking about the
Give me
Old
30
Testament, what are
seconds.
we talking about?
About the fact that you told me today, if God commanded you to kill a baby, you would do it. And then I followed that up by asking,
This is messy from Nick. Oh, it wouldn't have been messy if he said, you know what? I'll just bite the bullet. Like if he prefaced it, Kelly, with, you know what, Mela, if he said, yeah, so what? How is it? Regardless of why I'm doing it, can you tell me from a secular view why any of it would be wrong? If he pushed back there and turned it on him, it wouldn't be as messy.
asking you, if God commanded you to rape a baby, would you do it? And you said
God
no
wouldn't do that
because
because it's
that's
evil.
cruel. Okay, so Babel today,
Yeah, Sal, I would assume it was pre-lust if I thought that. Like, I wouldn't just I wouldn't look at orbs on my live stream and suddenly be like, well, I must be doing something fully glorified and near divine, that I'm getting orbs sent to me from God. That would be a prideful approach. That would assume your own elevated illumination. You would be declaring yourself to be super holy.
you would do if God commanded it, but raping a baby today, you wouldn't do because God wouldn't command it.
Well,
because it's evil.
first of all,
are you making the implication that the baby today isn't evil?
No. What you said is that in
Okay,
the
so
Old
then you
Testament,
wouldn't do that either, right?
Well, hang on.
It's seemingly a
Let's rewind.
contradiction.
Let's rewind because you said in the Bible God says to rape babies. Can you just
No, I
retract
said
that? Never
babies.
happened. No,
No,
if
I
you
said kill
rewind,
babies.
yeah, okay. People can rewind the clip. You said babies because you got to
We'll-
and rape
we'll
people
clear
because you
this
got
up
a
so
little
easily.
ahead of yourself. Because you got a
Nick,
little
we'll
ahead of
clear this
yourself.
up so-
That
Nick, I
never
literally
happened.
clear this up so easy.
There is text. The Old Testament
Please,
takes
explain
place in a fallen world. We live in a fallen world because we have free will. Okay, God created human beings. Human beings disobeyed God and sinned because
Scribs?
What's so bunko, baby? Hitler with a time machine.
Yeah, maybe you would.
we disobeyed God and sinned. We have the penalty of death, war, shame, guilt, pain at birth, all these things. In the fallen world, people
Top left kid is so dumb. He has a really bad worldview. He's good at memorizing information and studying rhetoric, and he's been caught debating with ChatGPT live. So yeah, he's very confident for how broken his view is.
in the fallen world, people lie, cheat, steal. Cain, Abel. In the world, the fallen world, before Jesus Christ arrived, it was a world with slavery and warfare and iniquity.
Wait, what? Excuse me? The fallen world before Jesus Christ? Well, there is a metaphysical change, we can argue, from a Christian view, post-resurrection, but maybe he just got that confused and said it wrong. But no, the fall, I'm trying to understand what he means by this.
It is in this context.
Let me hear it again, actually.
In the world, the fallen world, before Jesus Christ arrived, it was a world with slavery and war.
Oh, okay. I understand. He wasn't saying it was... I got it. Sorry, I misconstrued it.
Warfare and iniquity. It is in this context that God commanded the chosen people to certain tribes to establish their survival.
This is why it's such a good book. I recommend everyone read it or listen to it by Father Stephen DeYoung called God is a man of war. If you're having trouble with your family and friends when this comes up, whenever that would be, most of us live lives where this never comes up, but this so-called problem of the Old Testament God, incompatible with the nice Jesus God in a man bud, who's giving everyone Tivas and energy drinks. The case being made for who God is in his wholeness, in his justice, in his divine justice, includes things that humans don't like. And so, if you want a nice, thorough grasp of sort of the summary of God through a Christian lens, the God of the Old Testament, people try to say, well, no, it's an analogy, or no, it's a metaphor, or no, it's this. They don't want to see that the triune Godhead actually has the power and justification to exact order, which is in the form of annihilation in the material. They don't like that. But once you grasp the context for it, and I think that's the best book there is for presenting the context, Father Stephen DeYoung, God is a man of war.
To secure a line for the coming of the Messiah. God does not approve of, because it says in the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not. God does not approve of, because it says, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, and so on and so forth. So God obviously does not support raping. Oh, would you kill a baby? No. But in the Bible, God prescribes laws and specific actions at the beginning of the world, which was fallen without Christ, without a Savior, in sin, for the survival of the chosen people. So the rules worked a little bit differently in the Old Testament. It doesn't mean that, and of course, taking a life in and of itself, hang on, there's a difference everybody knows between and murder. If I go and murder you for no reason, that's immoral. If I kill in self-defense or self-defense of my children, it's a different story. God commanding the people of the Old Testament is an extraordinary exception based on the fallen old world. That's one. Two, when Jesus Christ arrives, he fulfills the law and saves people from hell. Before Jesus Christ arrived, nobody could even go to heaven, and it was a world of iniquity. And Jesus Christ changed and created this modern world that we truly believe in.
And you should know that's too cruel.
Is this a debate about Christian nationalism, or is this like a weird new atheist? By the way, why do you think is wrong? Where do you get that information from?
Yeah, where, Dean?
So first of all, I don't think that it's inherently wrong. I think that is wrong. Okay.
Why?
Oh, okay. So you agree with me then?
Right. And then what I'd say here about is that's just going to be driven given my intuitions. I'm a subjectivist. We all know this, but I think you are too.
Wow. What do you mean you think you are too? You wouldn't know that.
Would you agree with me?
You're subjectivist.
Would you agree with me that objectivism can be defined as like a stance independent, like truth?
That's a contradiction. Then that statement itself couldn't be known to be true. You dummy. You stupid little kid. You dumb little twerp. You need a wedgie and be thrown in a locker.
It's an independent truth? What did you say? I didn't hear you.
Like a stance independent truth. That's what it means. For
a stance independent truth?
Yeah.
Of independent truth, or that there is independent truth?
Okay, wow.
The sentence construction doesn't make sense.
Well, no, that question does make sense from Nick. He's basically talking about first order statements and second order statements.
Okay.
If you're a subjectivist, you really don't have access to much epistemology. So I don't know why Dean Withers is talking about metaphysics and epistemology if his whole view is that he can't know anything to be true because it's all just purely subjective on his own preferences. Like he just like truth isn't something you discover; it's something that you subjectively craft in real time.
So like in philosophy, right? When we're referencing terms such as moral objectivism.
What do you think, Kanye?
I had always believed that whenever God commands war in Congress, that it was an act of judgment.
It is. Amen.
Or moral subjectivism. We define objectivism given like when I.
That's the other thing is like people think of God's judgment the way lowercase Christianity has gone for so long in the West, is that judgment is like a gavel. It's like you deserve this. It's like a punishment. It's like this, all these terms, right, that we pull from our worldliness. But God's judgment and justice is an exacting of his divine order. It's a reordering. It's not like this kind of like, oh, I'm so bad, now I get punished, bad boy. You know? It's not, they misconstrue it from that view. We're talking about something, the type of justice, divine justice, is above our natural tendency to exact justice or correction or discipline.
Say is wrong, that is true independent of any stance of any actor of any mind. Okay, when I say something
I understand what you're saying. I don't understand the construction.
You have a different understanding of the divine than Dirk. Yeah, Dirk, you have an incoherent, non-understanding of the divine. Because if you're a New Ager, you're probably going to fall into monism quite quickly. Dirk. So, which is kind of ironic, because if you fall into monism, then you can't say you have a different understanding than the divine than Dirk, because all understandings of the divine, including the ones that the illusory ones that seemingly contradict yours, would all be a part of the one anyway. I'm just assuming, Dirk, that your worldview entails everything as one, bro. Dirk's understanding is good. No. I mean, if you want, you can call in. I mean, it'll slow down the Kanye chats, which I wouldn't be happy about, but it would be worth destroying your New Age nonsense, Dirk.
I'm not. You're like mumbling to yourself.
Dirker.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, subjectivism is that there's an
term.
independent truth. Yes.
Okay, so is morality independent of God?
No, because God is morality. God is good.
So a morality is subject to God.
No, he just said it can't be separated. If it was subject, that would mean be separate. That would mean God is subject to morality and morality is subject to God. Nick just said, ontologically, the morality is a person, not a set of rules or a floating platonic written stone that's somewhere in the ether.
Okay. Ooh, could God create a box so heavy he couldn't lift it? Yeah, that's great. So if you believe that
would be
killing
a
is
contradiction. I didn't give you a contradiction. I just showed you that you're a moral subjectivist.
I know.
No, he's not a subjectivist. God isn't isn't subject to things. Subject means post-creation. God is eternally uncreated. There's nothing God is subject to in the same way a human being is a subject in the world, subject to the external world, subject to this, at the effect of this. Dummy.
No, thank you. So
no, Nick didn't correct him because Nick, to be fair, he seems to have a decent grasp on just some metaphysics, but he's not correcting Dean right now.
Yeah.
So where do you believe that is wrong then? So you believe it's subjective, you don't believe it's absolutely wrong.
Yeah, right? What's that? What's that, Aiden?
10 minutes, guys.
Great. Yeah. So I mean, I could kind of give you a little bit of an overview of my stance here on morality. So metaethically, I'm just gonna be a subjectivist, a relativist. When we like to reference like why I think things are wrong, it's just gonna be driven my intuitions.
That's great. I have an intuition that Christianity should take over the West, and all of our laws should be informed by Christian ethics. I just have this weird intuition, and I have the intuition that it's right and true and good, and it's based on your system, Dean. So why should we listen to yours? Case closed.
I mean, like, we could talk about different moral frameworks. I myself am what is called a threshold deontologist.
Why should we even explore threshold deontology then? Why should we explore any of it? Kant, the rest of them, who cares? It's just a preference. Like, that's like saying, like, I prefer licorice ice cream, and I'm like, cool, I don't. And you're like, yeah, but I can get into the ingredients of licorice ice cream. It's like, no, I don't prefer it. I just told you.
Meaning that I believe that like particular things can be always wrong, but meanwhile we should consider like the consequences of others. It's pretty interesting.
Is
But when-
Holocaust wrong?
These people are such nonsense machines, dude. This is what happens when you give people discord. Discord is to philosophy what the printing press is to the Bible.
Wrong?
Yeah, the Holocaust was wrong.
Objectively?
No, because
How does one call in? What? There's 2 Dirks? Seriously? We got 2 Dirks in the chat? Kanye, are these your friends? These Dirk people?
objective truths in the context of morality
Screw duty, it's my preference.
doesn't exist. Nothing's
In your
objectively
opinion,
wrong
it's
or right
wrong.
because that standard doesn't exist.
In your
I
opinion,
preferred to starve my children to death.
it's wrong.
And in accordance with my index standard, it's wrong. Yeah, but I mean, just saying, oh, you believe in you
You know Dirk mostly from inspiring philosophy.
believe in subjectivism, but I'm gonna like counter that by
Those bastards didn't read my $25 super chat. And you read around it. You read around my chat. Both of you. Okay? Apostate prophet. Who's the other psychopath? Not that apostate prophet is a psychopath, but the one dude. What is his name? You cheap bastards.
asking you, is it objectively wrong? That doesn't really achieve anything. I could literally
What
ask
is
the
your
same
what is
question
your
of you.
qualification?
Was the Holocaust objectively wrong?
Of course it was wrong. Of course it was
But you
objectively
but
wrong.
you disagreed with
David Wood, you little slime ball. I was about to buy an Artza box. Now I'm not going to do it.
me that morality is subject to God.
Because morality is God. It's identity, not subjectivity.
Wait, God is identical to
Truth also, dude. Truth is a being from the Christian view, and so is morality.
morality?
Yes, God is good.
How does that not make sense, Dean? Even if you take the approach that somebody embodies the standard of morality, like your dad or some sort of guru or something, it's still a being, your person you're looking at. You're questioning. If the question of morality is how you ought to think, act, and be, if morality is a prescriptive for how you ought to act, think, and be, then the standard for morality would be someone who acts, who bees, and who thinks. It's not that hard, Dean. Wait. You think morality is basically can only be logically grounded in a being? Yeah. Can it be grounded in a rock? You little... He has that hair where you just smack him across his head. You know what I mean?
God is
These people don't get smacked enough.
the good.
Okay, so when I say that like hugging your mom is good, I'm just saying that hugging your mom is God.
UPB... Are you talking about Molyneux? No. UPB is not Christianity.
Yes.
Totally false, dude. No. UPB is not Christianity because in Christianity, there are things we ought do that we don't prefer to do. So that ends that argument. It's not universally preferred to sacrifice things you want or prefer rather be doing than being a father. So no, universal. I'm actually appalled that Stefan Molyneux got that trash book to as many people as he did. It's such trash.
Okay. So can you just say that for me? Like every single time you kiss your wife, that's a really God thing to do.
God in the OT gave commands to those who knew
As I
him,
understand it,
previously
Eleni
established
gave commands to those who
context,
knew
unlike a
him
random
previously
dream.
established context, unlike a random meme.
Thank you. That was actually well written too for a Mexican. I mean, Mexicans can write for Kanye too.
Love is good. An act of love.
Self-sacrifice is not universally preferred. Yes. Especially in modernity, Ian, for sure.
That expresses love.
Especially when we live in a world, at least in the modern worlds, the modern countries, the modern nations, we live in a conveyor belt society where everything we want and dream of not only is available, but available at least in a day, like at most a day and a half.
is good. God is the good. God is being itself. We are participating in being.
Being, yeah, we're participating in being.
Oh wait, now we have some more issues here because earlier you told me that God would never command you to like a baby because that's evil, but now you're saying that God is identical to goodness. Meaning, if God is all powerful in the sense that he could do anything that's logically possible and he's identical to goodness, why wouldn't he be able to tell you to rape a baby?
Did you say grape?
I did. TikTok words. I know.
Well, God also tells us that God's plan is very complex.
Why won't you answer my question?
Because these are just like low IQ.
No, that's not a low IQ.
Well, because grape is another category of action that's a type of sexual action. And so graping a baby would be a perversion of sex. I mean, I don't know why Nick dodged this. Say, the way in which we interact with each other occurs at different categories. There's different categories of interaction. You know, there's an ordinary social interaction. There's an ordinary friendship interaction. There's brotherly love. There's marriage. There's engaging in economics. These are all different categories of interaction from a Christian view that are all tied still to the being and the necessary standard for good, the life of Christ. And so it's not a, that doesn't produce any contradiction, Dean. You're now in a different category.
Like you pointed out.
Emoji.
He already addressed this. Oh, I may have skipped
emoji.
past when he addressed this, but I don't know. How am I supposed to know?
Literally talking about what you think goodness is, what its derivative, and how it would apply to your God. Actually, we could extrapolate this out to the problem of evil as a whole, right?
There's no problem of evil. This is retarded. There's no problem of evil, dude. The problem of evil, once you push someone on the problem of evil, you go, what's evil? What is it you're referring to? And they're like, things I don't like. Okay, cool. So there's no problem of evil by your own standard. What? Wiggity style, man. What?